He, yeah, great. He's a natural. He's a natural devotee. Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay, it's working. Okay. Good. Okay, so today is a special day in the Vaishnava calendar. I don't know if we'll get to the Bhagavatam. Today is the disappearance day, commemoration of the disappearance day of Baladev Vidyabhushana, the Vedanta Acharya, one who composed the Govinda Vas, and it's also the appearance day of Ganga Mata Goswamini, for you ladies. So first we'll chant the prayers to the departed Vaishnavas. Ye anilo prema dana korana prachu Henu Prabhu Kota Gela Charya Thakur Kahamora Swarup Rupa Kasanatan Kahadasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan Kahamora Bhatta Juga Kaha Kaviras Ekakale Kotagela Goranatara Pashane Kutiba Mata Annale Pashibo Goranga Guneranere Kotagele Pavo Se Sabha Sangira Sange Ye Koilo Vilahat Se Sangana Poila Kande Narotam Hodas Jayandilo Prematanda Koruna Rachu Jayacharya Thakur, Jayacharya Thakur, Jayacharya Thakur, Jayacharya Thakur. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahansa Osuteta Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Abhaya Jananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Adanta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadwaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturanam Ki Jai Jagadava Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Putle Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamati Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatari. We'll read the translation. He brought the treasure of divine love and it was filled with compassion and mercy. Where is such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where my Swarup Damodar Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishna's Kavi Raj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottama Das simply weeps. So as I mentioned before, today is the commemoration of the disappearance day of Baladev Vidyabhushana, the Vedanta Acharya, and it's also the commemoration or celebration of the appearance day of Ganga Mata Goswamini Ki Jai. So, some biographical information about Baladev Vidyabhushana. He was actually born in Orissa, right near Ramuna. Ramuna is where which deities are? Anyone know? Shirachora Gopinath deities. The deities that stole the sweet rice from Madhavendra Puri. And of course, this is far after Madhavendra Puri had his pastimes. So, as a young man, he studied Vedanta literature and other literatures, other Vedic literatures, and even read Shankara's commentaries, the Sari Rakya Vasha. But he wasn't satisfied with anything that he heard, so he kept traveling around and went to a place called Udupi. And Udupi, of course, is where Sripad Madhvacharya made his mat, and there's the beautiful deity of dancing Gopal there. There's the deity of Sita and Ram, Lakshman, and Hanuman that were passed down in disciplic succession, actually, from the sun god. And he studied all the Vedic commentaries there and decided to be a Vaishnava. Of course, he was already a Vaishnava, but he decided to follow the path of Madhvacharya. And then he decided to go back to Jagannath Puri to preach to everybody there. But while he was in Jagannath Puri, he met Radha Damodar, who was a disciple of Rasikananda. And he surrendered to him, and he became acquainted with the Gaudiya philosophy that is taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Achincha Veda Veda Tattva, and of course with the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Then he decided to go to Vrindavan, and he met the great devotee Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and studied with him. And particularly he studied the Shat Sandarbhas under Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was what we would call a Kshetra sannyasi. Kshetra sannyasi means someone who doesn't take the formal order of sannyas, but he stays in a holy place or vows to stay in a holy place. That's what Kshetra means, a place. Of course, sometimes Kshetra can mean the body too, according to the Bhagavad Gita. So he stays in a holy place and he renders service to the deities or to the devotees, but he takes a vow to remain there, like Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. He had also taken a vow of Kshetra sannyas, and when he wanted to leave, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent him back. So while he was there, something very interesting happened in Jaipur. The king of Jaipur was a Gaudiya Vaishnava, and he was very much into the worship of Radha and Krishna. However, many pundits there were what we call Ramanandis, who didn't really understand or accept the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. So they had this whole discussion, and they said, well, we can't have Radharani on the same altar as Govinda, because he's the Rupa Goswami's original deities, Radha Govinda, that were sent to Jaipur. They were sent to Jaipur to save them from the Muslims' attacks. So they were taken care of by the king. They're actually they're taking care of the temple is actually part of the palace grounds of the king. Anyone who's been there has seen it. Every morning, I wouldn't say everyone in the city, but the vast majority of people who are devotees, they come and they take darshan of Radha Govinda. And you hear every morning as they're taking darshan of Radha Govinda, 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 and they're circumambulating the deities. It's quite a beautiful sight. So what happened is that they decided, the king had to go along with the Ramanandis. They decided to separate Radha and Krishna, and Radharani was sent to a separate temple. So you may say, how can something like that happen? How can Krishna allow this to happen? Well, there's an esoteric explanation of that. The esoteric explanation is that Radha and Krishna had an argument. Because we always know that Radharani has her man, her anger towards Krishna, when Krishna doesn't behave himself. And especially when Krishna tries to disturb her, agitate her, make her jealous, she gets really angry and she goes away and she has her associates stand with sticks to beat Krishna if he comes close. And then Krishna has to make so many tricks to get close to Radharani again. Anyway, sometimes he has to, as they say, dress and drag as a lady to get close to Radharani. So what happened is that this is the esoteric reason that this particular pastime happened. The Radharani was separated from Krishna. But still, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, when he heard about this, he was very upset. I mean, obviously, we'd be upset too if we came to the altar one morning and there was just Golokananda there, and Radharani was being worshipped in a separate temple in Mother Krishna Priya's house. I mean, I think I would definitely, I would definitely have a cow at that particular point. I mean, screaming, yelling, you know, what's happened. And actually, devotees should not use the deities to enact pastimes between Radha and Krishna, or even, as been done elsewhere in ISKCON, pastimes between different incarnations of the Lord. In other words, you're not to take Radha and Krishna in one day, give Krishna a bow and arrow, and say, now he's Lord Ram. You can't do that. The deities, Prabhupada said that we should worship the deities in a very awe and reverent mood. And the deities are not our playthings to depict different pastimes or even their own pastimes. We're not supposed to put like surround Radha and Krishna on the altar with a boat. You understand? And then have put, extra arms on Radharani holding, or Krishna shielding their regular arms so it looks like they're rowing a boat in the Yamuna River or something like that. It's prohibited. So anyway, let's get back to the story. So basically, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur got very upset, but he could not leave Vrindavan for two reasons, because of his health and Kshetra sannyas. So he sent Baladev Vijayabhushana there. So Baladev Vijayabhushana had a whole discussion with these Ramanandis. He was quoting from different literatures like the Gita Govinda by Jayadev Goswami, which is accepted generally by basically everyone in India. Even it's described that the Muslims, I forget which Muslim king, he actually arranged for a whole version of the Gita Govinda to be published, an elaborate version to be published of it. So anyway, so he also quoted from the Brahma Vimohana Leela, where Krishna married all the gopis, including Radharani. He quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:30-28 that says, Anaya Harito Nunam Bhagavan Hari Ishvaraha, which basically refers to Radharani. Yanno Vihaya Govinda Pritayam Anayad Rahaha. In which the translation is, this particular gopi perfectly worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna was so pleased with her that he abandoned the rest of us and brought her to a secluded place. Many, many more verses he quoted from different shastras, different acharyas, and he defeated them. But they said, we don't accept any of these verses. Or we may accept the verses, but we don't accept you as being qualified to comment or give your purport to these verses, because you're not connected to any sampradaya. You say that you're a member of Madhvacharya Sampradaya, but then you're going with the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and you don't even have a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. There's no Gaudiya commentary. Of course, the Madhvacharya had a commentary. So he replied by saying that Lord Nityananda was initiated by Lakshmi Pati Tirtha, and Madhavendra Puri was a disciple of Lakshmi Pati Tirtha, and Ishwara Puri was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, and they questioned why some people are named Puri and others Tirtha. He said this is simply from the sannyas guru, not the actual guru. It doesn't indicate someone's disciplic succession. And they said, you have no commentary on the Vedanta. He disagreed. He said, Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary by the same author, Srila Vyasadeva. They disagreed. And then he said, well, we have a commentary. I'll show it to you in a few days. And there was no commentary, specific commentary at that point. And that shows great faith in Govindaji, great faith in Krishna. When you say that there's no commentary, but I'll show it, or you say there is a commentary, I'll show it to you in 2 or 3 days. So he went to Govindaji, the deity, and he prayed. Govindaji dictated this commentary, which is known as the Govinda Bhash. And the Pandits, when they heard this Govinda Bhash, they were so amazed that they wanted to get initiated by Baladev. And Baladev refused. He said, look, you're already initiated. In other words, there's no question of reinitiation. Even if someone comes to us from another sampradaya, a bona fide sampradaya, Vaishnava sampradaya, we're not talking about, Shankara sampradaya or anything like that. We're talking about a bona fide, or Vivekananda, whatever. apasampradaya, then we don't reinitiate people unless it's from some bogus sampradaya. We simply give them what? Shiksha. And the shiksha is the most important connection. Just like even in the case between Baladev Vijayabhushan and Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, the connection was actually shiksha. And you see in our disciplic succession, which was firmly established by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the shiksha line is considered to be the most important line of disciplic succession rather than the diksha line. Sometimes people, it's very interesting, this whole discussion of whether ladies or Vaishnavis, whether Vaishnavis can become gurus. They say Vaishnavis can become shiksha gurus, but can't become diksha gurus. But in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's this prohibition about distinguishing between shiksha and diksha. And in one sense, shiksha is actually much more important than diksha. The diksha guru is sambandha gyan, and the shiksha guru is abhideya. Sambandha, of course, means to establish and help someone understand the relationship between the different tattvas, the basic philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And abhideya is, what do you do about it? Which is probably, of course they're both important. We have to know sambandha again. But basically, after we know the basic tattvas, then the most important thing is, what are you going to do with your life? So to make this distinction between Siksha Guru and Diksha Guru, one is more important or less important, or someone could be one and they can't be another, is a very artificial distinction, and we have to understand people's motivation behind making that particular distinction. I'm not criticizing anyone. So anyway, the Pandits wanted to get reinitiation. He said, no, you're already initiated. And then Radha and Govinda were brought together, and their lovers' spat ended. It's an interesting word, isn't it? The lovers' spat. That's a typical English word. So Baladev Vijayabhushan established in his Govinda Bhash and also commentary in the Bhagavad Gita the 5 tattvas, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma. And if you don't know what that is, that means the Supreme Lord, us, Jiva. No, not the Supreme Lord, us, but the Supreme Lord, Kama. Okay. I have to be careful not to run my words into each other. The Supreme Lord, us. The Supreme Lord, Kama, us, Kama, Prakriti, Kama, Kala, time, Kama, Karma. So this Prabhupada talked about this in terms of the Bhagavad Gita. And his samadhi is behind the Radha Shyamsundara temple in Vrindavan. So as far as his books are concerned, his commentary we just mentioned on the Vedanta, which is known as the Govinda Bhasha, the Jewel of Conclusions, is another book, or Siddhanta Ratna, Sanhita Komadi, a summary of Vedanta philosophy, known as the Vedanta Saimantaka, the Jewel of Factual Principles. And in this Jewel of Factual Principles, he outlined the 9 principles held in common by both the Madhva and Chaitanya schools. I guess it's something like Dashamula. Something like, you all study that in the...
Baladev Vijayabhushan wrote the basis of Dashamula. So Madhvacharya's chief disciple, Vyastirtha, he compiled the 10 principles. I don't understand. Well, they're saying 9 because the 10th is the Vedas of the Pramana.
Yeah.
And then Baladev Vijayabhushan took Vyastirtha's, which was Madhvacharya's, and he adapted it a little bit. Then Bhaktivinoda took Baladev Vijayabhushan's, and he added the rasa to it.
Yeah, rasa.
So the Dasamula Tattva that Bhaktivinoda connects us to Baladev Vijayabhushan and to Madhvacharya.
Wow. Very interesting. Thank you. So the Prema Ratnavali, summary of Gaudiya Vaishnava principles, called the Siddhanta Darpana, the Kavya Kastubya, a book of selected Sanskrit verses for Vaishnavas, the Aishvarya Kadambani, Vyakarana Komedi, a book on grammar, Pada Kaustuba, prayers, commentaries on important Upanishads, beginning with the Ishopanishad, which we study in ISKCON, and including the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, commentary in the Bhagavad Gita, known as the Gita Bhushana, as commentaries on the Vishnu Sahasranama, that means 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu, Srimad Bhagavatam, Vaishnava, Nandini Tika, commentary on Jiva Goswami's Tattva Sandarbha, Rupa Goswami's Davamala, Nataka Chandrika, Jayadev Goswami's Chandraloka, and he wrote his own Sahita Komedi. He wrote the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Nataka Chandrika, and Shaimananda Shataka. Baladev Vijayabhushana disappeared in the Christian year 1768. Okay, and that's information about Baladev Vijayabhushana. So now we'll go to, for you ladies, it's the appearance day of Gangamata Goswamini. So, this is very encouraging for those ladies who want to dedicate their life to Krishna. So she was born in the kingdom of Sri Naresh Narayan. That was the king, and her original name was Sachi. So from her early age, she manifested herself as a great devotee of the Lord. She immersed herself in grammar and poetry and studying the scriptures. She was always fascinated by Krishna consciousness, and many young boys were charmed by her beauty, but she didn't have the least bit of attraction for them, no matter how handsome or rich they were. Her mind was always absorbed in her deity of Madan Gopal. What a nice story. And so her father was getting an anxiety, because Prabhupada talks about how the parents get in real anxiety when their daughter is not married, because they want to protect their daughter. And she told her father, "I'm not going to marry a mortal man who is born in this world of death." Oh my God. And they kept trying to make arrangements for her marriage. She refused. And in due course of time, the father and mother, being very disappointed, passed away. So she became the queen. And she was governing the kingdom, and one day she decided, I'm going to go visit the places of pilgrimage and not come back. So the queen just renounced everything. Can you imagine if that happened with the Queen of England? She just renounced everything. She had her golden jubilee or something recently. And she was so old, she couldn't even attend most of the golden or silver or diamond jubilee. And instead of taking up Krishna consciousness, when one gets old, it's just like a sign, it's time to be absorbed in Krishna and not be absorbed in management or pound, shilling, and pence anymore. So, yes, Krishna's giving me that message. So, finally, after 78 years. Anyway, so she went to, she wanted to find a spiritual master to get guidance. So she went to Jagannath Puri, and she took darshan of Lord Jagannath and got a message, inner message, to go to Vrindavan from Lord Jagannath. And Lord Jagannath told her to go to Vrindavan, so she met Haridas Pandit, who was completely dedicated to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. And she fell at the lotus feet of her spiritual master, Haridas Pandit. And Haridas Pandit's preceptorial ancestry is really interesting, that he was the disciple of Anantacharya, who was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. So he's very much connected. So Haridas wanted to test his disciple, which happens sometimes when someone, nowadays, of course, people are not qualified to be tested, but he wanted to test his disciple. He says, it's not possible for the daughter of a king to go to Vrindavan and live as a poor devotee. Better for you to stay at home. Of course, this is very much reminiscent of Narada Muni talking to Dhruva Maharaj, isn't it? So the test, go home, later on, come back to Krishna consciousness when you get old. And she became more determined when she heard the words of her guru. She became very, very austere. And he gave her permission. He said, you could wander around Vrindavan as a renounced devotee. And she went around Vrindavan covered only with rags and begging alms. It's called madhukari. She became very, very, very weak. She would cleanse the temple, see the deity, listen to lectures on the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Haridas Pandit felt great pity towards seeing the intense renunciation of his disciple. So he called her and said, I'm very, very pleased. Soon I will give you initiation. He hadn't given her initiation at that point. Imagine the test. And so what he did is he gave her the association of another disciple named Lakshmi Priya, and they continued the worship of Krishna and Radhakund. And of course, then she got initiated. And then her spiritual master gave her the order to go to Jagannath Puri, where she was supposed to take care of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. And she engaged in bhajan, was giving classes and everything like that. And she established the first class worship of the Shalagram Shila according to the traditional rules of the Shastra. And she would give Bhagavatam class every day. Many devotees would come to hear at Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. And it became so famous, even the king of Puri, Mukundadev, came to hear the Bhagavatam. He was thinking, I want to make a nice offering to her. That night he had a dream. Lord Jagannath told him, offer Sachi Devi a place on the banks of the Ganges there. There's the Sveta Ganga there. So he offered her this particular place, and she didn't want to accept anything, but the king kept pressing his wishes and said, this is the desire of Lord Jagannath. And he named the holy god on the side of the Sveta Ganga, which means the white Ganges, after Sri Sachi Devi. So one day, a Mahavaruna Stana approached, and Sachi Devi wanted to go to the Ganges to bathe, not the Sveta Ganga, but the actual Ganges in Bengal. But she remembered that her spiritual master had forbidden her ever to leave Jagannath Puri. So she gave up her desire to bathe in the Ganges. Lord Jagannath came to her in a dream that night and said, don't think like that. The day when the Varuni will take bath, that day you must go and bathe in the white Ganges. Ganga Devi has been praying for your association. So you must go to the white, the Sveta Ganga. She was very joyful. The day of the snana or bath came. In the middle of the night, Sachi Devi went to the white Ganges to bathe. As she bathed, the current of Ganga Devi picked her up and began moving her along, and they overflooded the pond. And the current ran before her in a flood until she arrived in the middle of the Jagannath Mandir. Shoo. So actually she was in the middle of, there's the gate or, fence or not a fence, anyway, there's a gate and everything. She was right in the middle, right before the temple, not in the temple itself. But this is in the middle of the night. So the guards at the gate of the temple awoke. And as I mentioned last night in my class, that's a standard for people, guards in India, they go to sleep at night. And they were speechless at seeing, and they were thinking, how did she get there? The king woke up. And he came to the scene, and he saw that the gates of the temple, he saw that she was inside. He ordered the gates of the temple open, and then he saw Sachi Devi sitting inside, or standing there, inside the temple of Jagannath. She actually went in the temple. Yeah. Phew. And the servants and pujaris of Jagannath concluded that she must be a thief who came to steal the valuable ornaments of Lord Jagannath. There must be some mystery here, people said. But Sachi Devi was imprisoned in the dungeons and to stand trial for theft. because they thought she had come there to steal from the deities. Sachadevi's mind did not become weakened or confused. She absorbed herself in chanting the holy name of Krishna. Actually, that's a lesson for us. Whenever we're put in a stressful situation, we should take shelter of Krishna's names. Late that night, the king, Mukundadev, saw Lord Jagannath in a dream, and Jagannath told him, "Immediately release Sachadevi from your dungeons. It's because I wanted to personally arrange for washing her holy feet that I had the Ganges bring her to my temple. I want your life to be, if you want your life to be auspicious, then you better make the pandas and pujaris bow at her feet and pray for forgiveness. You yourself must take initiation from her." Oh, initiating guru. The king, of course, was repentant. And he took his bath, and he went to the prison where Sachadevi was being held, immediately released her, fell at her feet, and begged for forgiveness. Then he went there, prayed, full obeisances, falling down like a rod before her feet, and actually all the king's associates. The king, he told Sachadevi how Lord Jagannath had ordered him to accept her as his guru and take mantra initiation from her. So not just Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru. And the interesting thing is, if it was against the Shastra, it would have never happened. So sometimes people say, well, it's against Shastra. But it's not against Shastra. Krishna doesn't do anything against Shastra like this. And there's many other examples too, such as Janavamata. And Mahajiniyena Gatasa Patta Tarko Patishta Shutina Vivina. One can understand how to execute devotional service by following the footsteps of great devotees. So Sachadevi became very joyful. Her heart was filled with love of Krishna, and soon, on an auspicious day, she initiated Mukundadev into the 18-syllable Radha Krishna mantra. And all the pujaris, or many of the pujaris, also took initiation from her that day. From that day forward, she was known as Gangamata Goswamini. So here's another story. One day, a smart Brahmin named Mahidara Sharma came to the Shveta Ganga to worship his ancestors. He heard the glories of Gangamata Goswami, and he was eager to have darshan of her lotus feet. And Gangamata Goswami Swamini offered him a place to sit. The Brahmin explained the reason for his coming. Seeing his genuine earnestness and piety, Gangamata Goswami explained the Siddhanta of Srimad Bhagavatam to the Brahmin. The Brahmin Pandit was astonished by her explanations of Srimad Bhagavatam and dived and surfaced in the nectar of her ambrosial words. After this, the Pandit Brahmin asked her to take shelter of the lotus feet of Gangamata Goswamini. On an auspicious day, she initiated him into the Radha Krishna mantra of 10 syllables. So different mantras for different disciples. Of course, the king got more syllables, 18 syllables, and the Brahmin got 10 syllables.
It's the Gopal mantra that can be either 10 or 18.
Yeah, depending. So, anyway, so it was 10 syllables. Mahidara Sharma's birthplace is in Dhananjayapura on the order of Gangamata Goswami Swamini. He preached the message of Nama Prema and the teachings of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya throughout Bengal. And that's the story of Gangamata Goswami. Any questions or comments? Yes?
I just had one comment. I remember reading one place that said that somehow or other, like the pandits, like when they went to make the offering to Jagannath, there was some way where the pandits, when they did Achman or something, they didn't know if Jagannath accept the offering or not. So Jagannath wouldn't accept what they had cooked. And so then it came, and then they were really upset, and they called the king, they kept cooking. And then when Lord Jagannath revealed that he wasn't going to take anything that was cooked by the pandits because they had offended his devotee.
Gangamata Goswami.
Yeah.
Wow. What a wonderful story. So any other questions or comments?
The place where she had a friend, I think Lakshmi something.
That was when she was
Yeah, that's Lakshmi.
Yeah, they did auspicious
Yeah,
Vaishnava Pandit. It's right next to Krishna Das Goswami.
yeah.
Krishna Das Kaviraj.
Goswami.
Krishna Das Kaviraj.
Goswami, yeah. Yeah, she has an ashram right there, right next to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's Bhajan Kutir.
Yeah, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was in.
Yeah, it's beautiful, very beautiful ashram, and they have usually keep a little cow there.
They keep cows there. And they have it's over on Sheila, that's two Sheilas
Yeah.
together that they worship as Radha Krishna.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful temple. It's right, like as you're going up from Manasabhavanagar, it's right to the right.
Yeah, and it's one of the three places where they have, in the Rockland area, they have a 24-hour kirtan.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments or additions? No? So all glories to Baladev Vidyabhushana, all glories to Ganga Mata Goswamini, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol. I don't think I wouldn't start 5 minutes.
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Bharavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vigamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham pritimanti pasyanti panti kayanti chiram naganti ananda chinmaya sadhu jala vigrahasya govindam adi purusham amaham bhajami govindam adi purusham amaham bhajami govindam adi purusham amaham bhajami govindam adi purusham
Namaho Vishnu Pataya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namine Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaniti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharane Devasesha Shunyavadeva Satyade Satarane Devasesha Shunyavadeva Satyade Satarane Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasade Gaur Bhakta Vrindana Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Sivasade Gaur Bhakta Vrindana Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasade Gaur Bhakta Vrindana Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Anukananura, Jai. Jaya Radha, Anukananura, Jai. Jaya Radha, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya also Teta Sitashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chanananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gone found